Bow hunting elk is one of the most thrilling hunts you'll ever encounter. Sure, it's gonna drive you nuts, and I'm on the verge of going crazy trying to chase elk up and down the mountain. But when you have a close encounter and a bull is standing there bugling right in your face, it's something you're never going to forget. After lunch, we spotted a spiked bull. Scott spotted him just feeding off on a hillside on his own. And that's not uncommon. The spikes kind of stay together at this time of the year. They may be on the fringe of the herd though, so Scott thought, let's just do a little sneak, do a little hike over there, peek into the canyon and see if that spike is by himself or is he on the edge of a big bull's territory. When we got in there, Scott gave one little cow mew, just a chirp. And in seconds, instantaneous, we heard the roar of a big bull below us, maybe 80, 90 yards away at most. We started seeing cows here, cows there, and things broke loose. And Scott made sure that the action was gonna continue throughout the afternoon. We set up, Angie beside me with the rangefinder, Scott backed up the hill and started making a little bit of pandemonium of his own. Cows, bulls, making that bull feel like another bull had infringed on his territory and possibly stole one of his girlfriends. And it worked just perfectly. Within a few minutes, a young 5-point come right up beside us within 17 yards. If it had been the big bull, no problem. But the big bull was coming too. He was taking his time though. He'd work up, he'd work back, he'd push a cow around, he'd work back up to us, but he would never break the 60-yard barrier. It was like a wall was set up there. He did not want to leave this one spot, and it was screened by timber, and get out into the opening where we'd maybe have that 50-yard or less shot.
We worked him for 2 hours, it felt like, after we were all said and done, and he just couldn't commit. Got him to 63 yards.
Just never gave us an opportunity. We worked hard for hours. We had him several times at 50 yards, 60 yards, but just no shots. You know, too many cows quartering to us or straight on, but just never a good broadside or quartering away.
Couple hours in that spot, and then he started moving with his cows, and we tagged him through rain, through wind. We'd get within 60, 70 yards again, but just again, no shots. He'd always be behind a tree or just over a rise. After working that bull for 3 hours, he finally made his big move and took off toward the lower country to feed for the night and left us in the dust. I have to say, on that first day of our bow hunt, it was absolutely one of the greatest days I've had hunting ever. When I got done, I was scratching my head. It's like, this here is like elk heaven. Could it get any better? It did.
For many, the thrill of elk hunting comes from call interaction, but you can experience the same thrill with spring turkeys if you have the right calls.
Oh man, that big gobbler, he was coming perfectly, and then another gobbler ran in, and the big boy just run him down that line of trees. We may get a crack at him yet. Now this squealing hen, it's a new call from Hunter Specialties. That doesn't mean it's a new sound. We may not have heard this sound as hunters, but turkeys have definitely heard it, and they react to it. Now what is occurring here is the tom. He's getting up on the back of that hen, and he's probably digging into her a little bit with his claws, scratching her. There's probably a little bit of pleasure going on there too, but it's an excited call. This is the perfect call to use in areas where hunters might have been pressuring these birds before. It's something new, something the birds may not have heard, and if you mix it into your other yelps and cutting, maybe a gobble or two, it can be the perfect answer to a hunt.